What's going on, Chaz? What's the deal?
Not much, man. 2 whole weeks. I feel
Yeah,
refreshed. I feel good. How about yourself?
yeah, I'm doing well. It's really the weather down here, man, in San Antonio. It's getting bad as far as supposed to be raining and it's cold, so it may freeze over and all that. So we gotta just take it easy and kind of make sure we do the best we can do to get through all of this stuff,
But
man. It's cold.
it, it's not as bad when you think about it compared to Wisconsin, Ohio, some of these other places that's
Yeah,
where it's cold. People getting accidents trying to
yeah.
get to their work. I seen a semi truck on the news the other day turn over. It was so much slick ice on the ground.
What?
So it's not that
Oh
bad
wow.
compared to those states.
Well, I'm glad to be back. That's all I can say because it's time
Me
for us
too.
to continue this conversation. And we said we were going to come back, but we know the so-called holidays had come and gone. So we're back now with a brand new topic, and it's called True Self-Love. And then also, how was that love demonstrated? Now I know you want to take a bite out of this apple at the outset. So before we put up any of our questions or comments, I wanted to ask you, why should we be talking about true self-love?
If for number one, it's detrimental to our own health, and for number two, and this main reason is because the media, magazines, all these places tell us what love or self love should look like, and when we don't measure up to that, we have low self esteem. Sometimes it
Mm.
makes us commit suicide, and some
Wow.
of us feel like if we don't look like what society tells us to look like,
Uh-huh.
we just feel like we're just a low down individual. So we need to break that tonight.
Yeah, and another thing we got to look at is the reason that we're really talking about this is because many of us don't love ourselves. See,
Mm,
we don't
mm.
want to accept it, but we really don't love ourselves because we're looking for something else to make us whole, and we're already whole. So I think this is going to be a great topic. So we thank all those who are tuning in. In
Yeah.
fact, let's say hello to those who are tuning in, and then we'll start putting up the
What?
comments as
Okay.
to what we have going on. So here we go off the bat. Take it away, Josh.
All right. We got Sister Marie Fires in here. She says, Hotel Brothers. Hey, Sister Marie, we appreciate you. Mashonda Fires in here. She says, it's cold here and snow, so stop tripping. Laugh out loud. Okay. Ain't Nuji's in the building. She says, peace and blessings, family. Hey, Ain't Nuji, appreciate her. And Rashana has the clapping hands, laughing at what we said. And then we have Sister Barbara. She says, Hotep Kings. We appreciate her for firing in here. So we appreciate everybody.
Okay, Chaz, let's define this what we say true self-love and its demonstration in our context. What are
Mm.
we talking about here?
Self love, appreciating yourself by recognizing your value, treating yourself with kindness, and prioritizing your well being, then demonstrating your love to your surroundings. I'll let you take that as I sip this real quick.
Yeah, because I think right off the bat, when we talk about self-love, we have to appreciate who we are. And we have to recognize our value because a lot of us think we're no good. We think we're lower
Mm.
than worms. And we have this stigma that when we look in the mirror, we don't like what we see. And that's a reflection of our mentality. And so we should be treating ourselves with kindness. We
Right.
shouldn't be beating ourselves up all the time, trying to be someone else or trying to be a person that we're not. We
Right.
should prioritize our well being, which we're going to talk about. And then we may not get to it tonight, but if we don't, next week we'll look at how does loving yourself look? In other
Okay.
words, how do we demonstrate this love? Because a
Okay.
lot of us, we talk about it, but Chaz, we're hurting. We're hurting
Yeah.
really bad.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, to touch up on what's on the screen about recognizing your value, I would just say in parentheses, in a nutshell, don't let others, don't let society, don't let the media, don't let them dictate to what your value is. Because here's the thing: their standards is going to always rise. It's going to always be someone younger. It's going to always be someone who's more in shape. It's always going to be somebody better than you. And when society is constantly rising like that, that makes the average man or woman feel like they're nothing because they can never compete. They can never keep up. They'll never be able to measure up to these crazy norms. And just noticing in the mirror, you say, hey, this is me. I'm doing the best I can. This is my appearance. Take her or leave it. But don't try to keep measuring up because you'll never be able to measure up to what they think
Mhm.
your value should be. And even with the income too, brother, we should have put that in there. Some people say that if you're not making six figures, if you're not driving a Rolls Royce, if you're not running a Range Rover, if you don't have these things and you have a regular Honda Accord, they say that means that you're low value and all that. See, all that, it plays a part in it too, I would say.
Yeah, you're definitely right, because I think we need to look deep within our hearts, look deep within our souls, and find out that a lot of us are struggling. See, we don't like to say this, Chazz, but a lot of us are not only struggling, we're hurting. See, and we can't love ourselves because we don't know how to love ourselves, because we've been damaged for so many years, and now we are the shell of ourselves. And this is why this conversation must be had, because a lot of us practically we really don't love ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sister Sharon fires in here. She says, "Hey, family. Hey, Sister Sharon. Thank you for logging in."
So, Chazz, let's talk about what true self-love involves. Let's look at what it involves.
Number one, acknowledging your value as a human being. And I would say your value does, and I'll say this again, like I just said, your value is not dictated on your job. Your value is not dictated on what kind of car you drive. Your value is not what neighborhood you live in. Your value is not you being a CEO, owner, entrepreneur. That's not a value to me. And I look at it as your value is you go to work, you do the best you can, you raise your kids, if you have kids, and you just do the, not always the bare minimum, but you do your best to strive, help others around you. Sometimes give back to the community if you have that time. But these are just basic principles that you should be following. And once again, your value is not wrapped up in materialism.
Yeah, that's well said. And I think we need to do what this first word says. We need to acknowledge. We need to acknowledge our value as a human being. Now, I don't mean to be prideful or to be very, boastful, to put ourselves above who we really are. But a lot of us, we have never in a long time looked at ourselves and said, I am very valuable as a human being. I am very unique as a human being. I am so special as a human being. You see, because people have talked about us all of our lives. The European has put us down in many instances, called us out of our names, treated us like stepchildren. And then our family members, we go through it with them. They talk about us. The society talks about us. Politics do us wrong. Religion kicks us in the teeth. All these entities are working on us. And so our value has gone down, Chazz. And a lot of us don't really want to acknowledge it. But you need to look yourself in the mirror and say to yourself, I am very, very proud to be who I am. And my value is very high, because this is why a lot of our young girls and a lot of our young boys, they do things that they shouldn't do, and adults too. So we can't say that it's just the youth. Some of us older adults, our value is so low because we don't love ourselves, Chazz. And I'm going to say something in about maybe 10 more minutes about all these different religions. I got different verses that they all say that we should be doing this. So I'm agreeing with them as far as the love, but I don't think we know how to do it, Chazz. I really don't think we do, because we've been through so much. It's tough. Yeah. It's difficult.
Yeah, and I'm waiting. I can't wait to hear what you say. I love to listen to your takes on these religions. Like you said, people, we always run into the spiritual meeting, so I'll be waiting for that. As we move on to number 2, treating yourself with kindness, a behavior of generosity, consideration, and concern. Exactly. Not beating yourself up all the time, not always stabbing yourselves with objects or taking it to the extreme, things like that. Saying, you know what, I am a human. I am a decent looking human, and just telling yourself kind things, because, and I keep going back to society and the world, and I have to keep stressing that point, because these things dictate to what we feel like, what we should be doing, and that kind of thing. And society tells us we're ugly. Society tells us, especially as Black men and women, that we're no good. We're thugs. All we want to do is, hang on the block, sell pills, sell dope, things like that. And I don't believe that. There's a small few, but they don't represent who we are as a whole. But just like we said, going back to the point, telling ourselves, it's okay that I messed up. I'm still a good person. I'm still striving to be the best that I can, and not getting yourself caught up with what the media is telling us.
See, and a lot of us like to say kind words to other people. You look nice today, or this and that, the other, and that's fine. But we never tell ourselves that. And I believe that because we haven't done it in so many years that we're struggling now. So now we have issues because we have not treated ourselves with kindness. We've been harsh to ourselves. We've been mean to ourselves. We've been nasty to ourselves, and so these are the types of words that we should divorce from our mentality when we think about ourselves. We should say kind things to ourselves internally. Right. We should be the ones that's going to bring ourselves out of the muck and mire of this low self-esteem. We shouldn't allow all those things that have happened to us to keep us down. At some point, Chazz, we got to live this life the way it's supposed to be lived, and that is live life to the fullest. You see, we can do that, but unfortunately, as we say, we don't treat ourselves with kindness, and we really should.
Right, we should. Sister Sharon fires in here. She says, we have to look at our inner self. We all have inner beauty. Society tells us different, mind over matter. Absolutely, Sister Sharon. I said that a few minutes ago. How we all have unique qualities about our own selves. We all have positive things that if we really, look at ourselves, there are a lot of good attributes there. But once again, like you mentioned at the end, society tells us different, and we have to try to, stay away from that as much as possible and not get wrapped up in that. Because if you listen to society, they'll always be kicking the can down the road, always raising the bar. You'll never be able to fulfill that.
And the queen is right. And she says we have to look at our inner selves. But then when we look at our inner selves, we have to do something, Chazz. We can't, and I know she's not saying this, but just looking at our inner selves is not the problem. We have to look at our inner selves first and then do something about that. Do something about that inner self. Stay off that social media. Stay off the TV. Stay out of those bars. Stay out of those places that bring us down. Stay away from people who are negative and always putting us down. Stay away from all those who always complain, always don't have anything good to say. Stay away from people who don't love themselves. Stay away from people who don't know how to compliment you. Stay away from people who just don't vibe like that. So this is what we have to do. And I think is very, very true, as the sister says. And she has a comment that I'll show here in a few minutes, but she's saying the same thing I'm saying. We're saying the same thing. When she say we have to look at our inner selves, she's saying we have to do something about that inner self. And that's why these children, our grandchildren, our relatives, most of us, we're struggling because we have never looked at our inner self. We were always looking at other people as opposed to ourselves.
Absolutely. We got another comment. Sister Barbara fires in here. She politely says, social media has did a job on the minds and many of our people because we have abandoned our true identity from the inside out. She's absolutely right. If you just take social media, that first half, that has really our youth, our elders, the young folks around my age, it has torn us up to the point where we can't stay off of it. And it has dictated to us what our value is. It dictated to us where we rank in society. All this is really nonsense. Not her comment. I'm talking about the idea that social media is basically dictating who you are in society. And it's a low down shame, but she's absolutely right. She's right.
Yeah, because the key thing she says is it's done a job on our minds. That's true. The consciousness, the awareness is shot. People don't care who they are anymore. And like Sister Sharon just says, no, she's saying that's what she meant. Thank you. You see, she's saying the same thing that both of us are saying, and people need to realize that it's all internal. And I said earlier I was going to say this, so now I might as well get it off my chest now. Because if you look at all these religions, and I'm going to say something positive about these religions for once. So I'm going to say something positive. No matter what you believe, no matter what I believe, no matter what anybody believes, most of these religions teach us a good principle. For example, in the Bible, in Mark 12:31, it says, love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than this. No commandment greater than this is that we love ourselves, but we don't love ourselves. In the Shura, for the Islamic brothers and sisters, the Shura al-Nasi 436 emphasizes, Chazz, that when one truly worships Allah, that they will live with their family in mind and with their neighbors in mind. Chapter 125 of the Negative Confessions of Those Who Believe in Spirituality, it reflects the importance of treating others with respect and aligning yourself with the nature of mayat, broadening the concept that we should love ourselves internally and also through actions. And then in the Torah, Leviticus 19:18 says, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. So you see all of this love talk. And last but not least, in Buddhism, we find a key passage that reflects that this is from the Metta Sutta, which means loving kindness discourse. Let one cultivate a boundless love toward all beings. Let all thoughts of boundless love persuade the whole world above, below, and across without any obstruction, without any hatred, without any enmity. But all of this must start with self-love, Chazz. So you can't love your neighbor until you love yourself. And that's the problem. We don't love ourselves, many of us. And this is why we have to do these kinds of broadcasts, so we can tell people, you're beautiful outside and inside. You're lovely. You're wonderful. You need to know these things. And that's a shame. But we have to say true love, it starts within one's own self. Chazz, you can talk now because I've been going on. So you can go ahead and say a few words now.
Oh, no, that was good. I was just going to say, too, that we do, I would say some of us, not all, some of us, we feel like when society doesn't give us these compliments, and if we feel like we've went a week or a month without getting any, positive compliments, that kind of reassures what we feel about ourselves. So in that time, when we feel like we haven't gotten these compliments, it kind of makes things get worse. And just because someone doesn't compliment you, no one's not hating. Sometimes people are in their own little bubble, but when you don't get those compliments, you still need to reassure to your own self and say, you know what, I'm a good, decent looking individual, things like that. And hype yourself up, if you will.
Yeah, and this is what I was going to say to those who are watching this broadcast. Chazz and I, we love you dearly. And what we're encouraging you tonight, we're saying this. I don't care what no one says about you. You are a beautiful individual. You are a wonderful individual, even with all of our flaws. All the things that we have, all the things that we want, all the things that we need, regardless of all of that, no matter what someone says about you, no matter how people talk about you, no matter how people treat you, you are a beautiful individual. You are a lovely individual. And we need you to know that, because that's where true self-love starts. It starts in your heart, but you have to do what we're saying, which is love yourself.
Absolutely. And Sister Sharon fires back in here again. She says, especially the young adults.
Yeah, that's true.
I was going to say, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, because Chazz, look at it. If you notice anything about our youth, suicide rate is at an alarming high right now in the African American community. So that means that our youth are not loving themselves, because our adults aren't teaching them what true love is. See, we like to sit around and act like everything is going well, but we're struggling right now. And the youth they're an indication of where we really are. I'm talking about kids in the first, second, third, all the way throughout high school, taking their lives. This is something that has not been done in the African American community, but now it's done. We are leading. Even though the issues are on us, we're leading all statistics on suicide. And I am very hot, because these are the things we should be talking about.
Yeah.
Our youth don't love themselves anymore, because many of us adults have not shown them, have not taught them what true love is. And that's problematic, Chazz.
Before I read Sister Barbara's comments, I just want to chime in real quick. And I have noticed that too, brother, an uptick of suicide, especially in the youth, not only the blacks, just youth in general. Like I said, this is more of a social media, Snapchat and YouTube type era. And a lot of those people on there, and those content creators, they do a good job at talking down to our youth. And some of our youth are holding all that information in. And then you get a phone call or a couple of days from now where they've, committed the act. And I feel sorry for the families who have had to bury young loved ones. This is a high uptick with suicide. And then I'll go ahead and read Sister Barbara's comment. She fires in here. She says, when one has been criticized, ridiculed by others, from a child to adulthood, if we were seen as obese, ugly, nappy-headed, and that was dictated how we see ourselves instead of loving ourselves. Yeah, and we do get that a lot in the Black community. Some of, not all, some of the people who raised us calling us ugly, calling us bucktooth, calling us nappy headed, and these kind of things. That, listen, brother, after so many years, 10, 15, 20 years growing up in a household, going to school, all that is going to eventually take a toll. And eventually, and I'm not taking up for a kid, but when kids lash out at school, this is some of the reason why. Now, once again, I'm not taking the kids shouldn't lash out, but they're holding all this stuff in. They can't find an escape, and this is why they're acting out in some of these ways. And like she said, as a Black people, we have to stop criticizing our loved ones, our children, always beating them down with these comments, brother, because that will mess them up. And I'm sorry that she went through that. Sister Barbara did.
Yeah, and it's true, Chaz. And I want to say this too. These standards, nappy-headed, Black, ugly, those are European values that they have given to us to make us not love ourselves. They put that on us, and we took it and accepted it and then put it on each other, and now we're struggling with it because we allow them to define who we are, and we shouldn't. If we knew something about our inner selves, that would not be as bad, even though you're right, it has affected us. But if we knew who we were, if we knew our identity, if we knew our culture, those things, those words, they would not have that kind of effect on us because we would look beyond that to know that we are beautiful. It doesn't matter who sees us as a certain kind of headed or a certain kind of pigmentation, because our inner beauty is going to, baby, overpower those words. But because we have allowed it, because our parents and our grandparents and our siblings and our relatives have all pitched in to help beat us down, now, like she said, this has taken a toll on us, and we cannot love ourselves the way we should.
Sister Sharon says, right, and I gotta take a shot. Okay, I'll read Sister Sharon's comment. She says, I'm dealing with my grandson. It's social media bullying. I don't want him to start having those thoughts. Society is deadly. Sister Sharon, you are right. Society is deadly. Social media is super deadly. And I would say, for your advice from me to you is, with your grandson, if you can, when he's around you, try to limit his social media. Try to get him off that phone. Spend one-on-one time with him. If you can, limit him to maybe 15 minutes, but don't let him just be doom scrolling, where he's just scrolling all day, scrolling, because you're going to run into issues. And I hope that your grandson does not take those posts off of social media seriously, because we can't afford to lose any more young kids at this rate, brother. It is terrible.
Yeah, and I want to give her some props. I'm going to give her some high props now. When I say I'm going to give her high props, I'm going to say it this way. She's taken an active account of her grandson. In other words, she's involved in his life, Chaz. Okay. That's what self-love does. It doesn't just go inwardly, which we'll talk about next week. It goes outwardly. So here she is looking at her grandson's life, an older woman saying, I'm going to involve myself in my grandson's life. Most of us old crawdads, we don't want to do anything. No, I'm telling you the truth. All we want is a cell phone to scroll at night, a blunt hanging from our mouths, some kind of beer or alcohol up to our mouths, or going to stores, grabbing groceries, or shopping, or riding around, trying to buy things to make ourselves feel good. When I'm telling you, she's done the thing that she should do, which is basically, she's dealing with her grandson. See, she's not pushing him aside saying those are his issues. That's a concerned grandparent, like most of us should be. But unfortunately, we don't have time for our grandkids because we too busy wanting to be alone to be so selfish. Now, you were going to say something, Chaz. I don't know if you forgot. You were going to chime in after that.
No, I didn't. I'm going to read Sister Barbara's new comment in a minute, but this is to her previous comment where she basically said she felt ugly. People were calling her nappy-headed and things like that, or maybe she's speaking in general. But this is a shot at the Christians, okay?
Uh-oh.
I believe in Isaiah 53, it describes Jesus's his appearance. Now, if you're a Christian and you believe in the Bible, and there's other verses that describes him, from the scripture, it says he wasn't that now I'm not saying he's a hideous person, but he wouldn't be in this modern generation. He wouldn't be good looking to a lot of people, the modern world. His hair is nappy, supposedly. He looks like you, supposedly, if you believe these things. So if you believe these things, you should be happy that you look like him if you're a Christian. But I don't think they're reading the scriptures, brother. Now,
I don't think they're being taught the scriptures, and this is what the problem is. They're teaching that Jesus was a white guy with long hair. So this is why we have low self-esteem, and because the mind is gone. But what you're dealing with a cultural situation where if people are into that, they should know these things. But unfortunately, they don't know these things, Chazz. They still thinking when they close their eyes and put their hands together, when they close their eyes, they're talking to a white man, Chazz. They're not talking to a person that was actually on the earth that looked like them. And so you definitely laid that out. But Sister Barbara says, I didn't go through all that stuff. She says she just observed that. So she's feeling, she's trying to let people know that this is what she has observed growing up. And I have as well, talking to people and that kind of thing. So we go back to true self-love, Chazz. It always has to start from within.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that. Sister Sharon, she fires in here. She says his mom have done that. It's really at school where it is now. I'll let you take that one.
Yeah. You have to watch your grandchildren and your children, and you have to monitor them. You really do. In other words, you can't just send them to any place and just let them come home and not ask them questions. You have to ask them, how are you feeling? You got to get deep into their lives. You can't just let them come home and get on a computer or get on one of their little games. You can't let them get on a tablet. You got to converse with them. This is what love is all about. So you're showing them love. And when they get older, they're going to do the same thing. But I keep going back to what we are now, Chazz. Many of us are not interested in our grandchildren. We're not interested in all we want to do is go to a nightclub, go to a football, basketball, baseball, boxing. We want to go to a game. We want to watch movies. We want to listen to music. This is why we don't love ourselves, because all those things take us away from the self and puts us in a fantasy world. And that's why we have what we have now. And Sister Sharon says this.
Amen.
Boy, this is. I guess we have a church tonight or something. I don't know. This is some good dialogue, Chazz, because we have to be honest, man. Here's something else that I know you're going to dive in at when it comes to true self-love.
Number 3, prioritizing your well-being. Take care of yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally. Mentally, I'll start with the mentally first.
Okay.
Observing what you're watching, observing all the things you're listening to, because if you're constantly listening to a lot of negative things, you're constantly on YouTube or Snapchat looking at a lot of negative videos, eventually that will take a toll on your mental health. You will start to feel cranky because you're feeding yourself all this information and you're getting more frustrated and angry because maybe things aren't going the way you feel they should be. So you got to be careful at what you're putting into your mind. Emotionally, some of us, not all, some of us have been emotionally abused. People constantly putting us down. Sometimes it could be a spouse, it could be family, it could be coworkers. I don't know what the case is, but you know about that. And last but not least, I'll talk about the first one, physically. You know my stance on this. If you can walk and you're not confined to a wheelchair, get up. 15 minutes. Get up. Go jog. Get up. I mean, you got to get out of these chairs. You have to get out of these beds. 15 to 30 minutes. Just get you some, if it's just like a nice little walk at the park or at the gym, because it's cold now. You can go to the gym and get on that treadmill and get that blood flowing.
Chazz, you bake that cake. All I need to do now is put the icing on this cake, because what I'm looking at is it says prioritize your well-being. In other words, put your well-being on a high level. Make sure that you put that first. See, don't put a man first. Now, Chazz, let's deal with this icing. Let's deal with this icing. When you love yourself, when I love myself, don't put a woman first. Don't put a man first. Don't put alcohol or beer and liquor. Don't put all that first. Don't put dope first. Don't put your job first. Don't put all that stuff first. Put yourself first. Take care of yourself. Like you said, go walking, drink water, stay away from that salt, stay away from that sugar. See, this is what we mean by physically. Mentally, get your mind right. Quit putting your mind in a situation where it's nothing. It's allowing other people to take advantage of you. Watch where you go. Watch what you listen to. Because some of these places we go to, Chaz, we don't want to accept it. Some of these places we go to, these places are destroying our minds mentally. We cannot do what we're supposed to do because they're messing our minds up, and we're so silly that we're allowing it and thinking that this is helping us. And then last but not least, emotionally.
Yeah.
Some of us, Chaz, are so messed up.
Yeah.
We're so messed up emotionally. And instead of trying to figure out, well, how do I love myself? We're still trying to find other areas of this life that we should be doing things on, when the answer is, when we take care of our emotions, when we take care of our health, when we take care of our bodies, when we take care of our minds, then we're going to begin the process of what self-love is all about. And this is what the African American must hear tonight. Self-love begins with taking care of your consciousness, taking care of your soul, taking care of your spirit, taking care of your body. It's an all or nothing deal, Chaz, and we can't just certain ways. It's an all or nothing deal.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. Sister Sharon Fires back in here. She says they make fun of him because he is a kid. They make fun of him because of that. Yeah, and Sister Sharon, I hate saying this. This is a sick society where people will tease children. People will tease how they look, their appearance, the kind of clothes that they have, the shoes that they have. And it's sad when people are teasing a little kid, but you got to teach him or her. I'm talking about people in general. When you have a little kid and you know they're getting abused like that, you have to put it in overdrive, meaning constantly give them affection, because at a young age, like I told you before, you can look up this video on YouTube. This black kid, I think she was 5 years old, getting her hair done by her mom, I believe. And she turned around and looked at the mother and said, "Mama, I am ugly." This is what this little kid said at the age of 5 years old. That goes to show you that at a young age, this stuff roots deep. So I'm getting emotional here, because these children are growing up being abused at home, and all these things are going on, and nobody's stepping in. So as Sister Sharon, as an adult, you have to keep hyping your kid up or your grandchild with positive things so that they don't, go off on the deep end.
Yeah, and I wanted to say to Sister Sharon too, I don't know if there's any men involved in this situation, and if it's out of control, then this is what this broadcast is about. She knows us personally.
Right.
We will set aside time and go up to that school as men and see what's really going on and confront the situation and let people know we're not going to have it. We're going to make some changes here. And if they don't do anything about it, we're going to do something about it. See, that's what society is about. See, all this passive laying in the back, talking to people from afar. We've got to get involved, because that's what love is all about, Chad. Love is about saying, hey, we're not going to just talk about love. We're going to demonstrate love, as we're going to talk about next week. How does love look? But we're going to demonstrate love in that if she needs some men, maybe, I don't know her situation, but if there are no black men that's involved, you better call us, and we will set time aside and go up to that school and confront the people that are involved in messing with this young man, because we're not going to have it, so they can see that these brothers are serious. We're not just YouTube content creators that talk to people and run behind these phones and all that. No, we're going to go out there and sit down and talk to these people.
Sister Barbara comments. She says, teach with some explosions. Sister Sharon fires in here. She says, that's what we are doing. And then she also comments behind it and says, absolutely. Yeah. This is a sad story with Sister Sharon, her grandson being bullied.
We're here for her, though, Chaz. We are here for her. This is not just a broadcast with two guys flapping their gums every week about different subjects. See, this is when you know it's real. Because some people you can't call. They're not going to help you. All they're going to do is tell you what to do. Well, child, if I were you, I would do this. Well, what about you being involved? Even the people that's here that know her that may say, hey, we want to go with y'all too. We want 15 of us to go. I bet you things going to change then. But this shows how sick most of us are, Chaz. We have another comment, so I want to get that comment in. But it's bad, man.
It is. Sister Sharon fires back in. She says she's moving back home here. Thanks. Going to need mentoring. Okay. And that's what we're here for. She also says, I know you will help.
Yeah.
Yeah, mentor, like you said, teaching them good principles and showing them the way, so that way when they get older, they can say, you know what, even though I did go through these little minor hiccups, I had a couple individuals in my life that
Hmm.
helped motivate me so I don't
Hmm.
go off from the deep end. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
mentoring is always good,
Yeah, because
always.
that's what it's all about, Chaz. Showing love is always men getting involved and women, because many times, and I'm not coming down on nobody's religion because they think that I'm against people's religion. I don't care if you believe that the cow jumped over the moon. I don't care about that. What I care about is within what you believe, will you get your behind up and out of those buildings and go to assist a sister like Sister Sharon, who is seriously having some issues, you see?
Right,
Will
right.
you get out of that building and take those words that they teach you and preach to you every week, every Sunday, every Saturday, when you go to the spiritual meetings, all this mayat, all this good stuff, and the assalamu alaikum, all these great words? When are we going to start doing something about our condition instead of sitting around looking at a Bible or a book or a spiritual book, thinking that that's going to get us what we need, when the woman is telling us now she needs help? And if she needs help, she should be able to pick up that phone and say, I know where I can get me some help, but you can't
Here's
get it in these buildings.
here's the sad thing, not just the Sharon, I'm just saying in general. It only, and I hate saying this, and I know we'll move on, but it only happens when it happens to us, meaning nobody really wants to push the envelope until it happens to them in their household. And then when it happens to them, then they want to start a revolution. And it shouldn't be like that. You should be able to help people when you see that they're in need, especially when someone's getting bullied. It's a bad sight. But as we move on to number 4, it says, embrace your cultural identity. Learn to celebrate your heritage, your culture, and history as a sort of strength and pride. Absolutely, especially as Blacks. There's so
Uh-oh.
much things that we've invented. There's so many good things that our culture has started, but
That's
we've
love, Chad.
ditched
That's
it.
love. That's self-love right there.
We've ditched it, and we've basically tried to take on other people's identity, other people's cultures, other
Chad.
people's things. So
Oh,
once again, and I'm not hating on Japs, Chinese, Muslim. I'm not hating on any of those cultures. I'm just saying, as a Black man in America, I've seen this with my own eyes that Black is starting to become trash now. We don't. We want to be other races. We want to be other
yeah.
people,
Teach, Chad,
and
teach.
we have to remember to stick to ourselves and show people that our race has good things going for it too. So
Yeah.
that's all I
That's true,
have.
because the number 4, the first word is the problem. We don't embrace our cultural identity. We shun it. We want to be away from it. See, we don't want to celebrate Kwanzaa. We don't want to celebrate Juneteenth. We want to do Christmas. We want to do 4th of July. We want to do Easter. We want to do Valentine's Day. We want to do all these silly days. So this is a problem, and because we have no pride in who we are as a people, many of us don't. That's why we're weak. We don't have any strength. See, we want to do what everybody else does, like you just said, but we don't want to embrace our own cultural identity, which is nothing but love. When we embrace our cultural identity, love should flow out of us, because we know that the people that came before us, all they did was demonstrate love to get us to where we are. But unfortunately, we don't want our culture. We don't want our heritage. We don't want our history. We don't want our identity. We don't want strength. We don't want pride. And so that's why we're being kicked in the teeth like this. And we're struggling with true self-love. So don't tell me you love yourself and yet you don't love your culture. Don't tell me you love yourself and you don't love your heritage. Don't tell me you love yourself and you hate being Black. Don't tell me you love yourself and you hate your identity. Don't tell me you love yourself and you're not strong. Don't tell me you love yourself and you're not prideful of who you are. So this is what it's all about, Chaz.
Yeah, absolutely right. That was a good rant, but yeah, we as a whole, I would say that as well as Blacks, we have to get back to our own roots and our own identity. And so what if the world doesn't celebrate it? We should be celebrating it for ourselves. And I think that's where we get caught up at, because like you said, Kwanzaa, Juneteenth, these are isolated holidays for us where the whole world isn't celebrating it. So we take that as, oh, this stuff ain't hitting on nothing. Oh, this is weak, because it's not celebrated by the popular world. And that's where society is. If the whole world isn't doing it, it's kind of shunned on, but we have to do it for ourselves. And Sister Sharon comments in here. She says, yes. Okay. We already did that one, number 4.
Okay, so let's continue to go down here, Chaz, because I think we really need to look at these truths about what true self-love is. True self-love is about pursuing growth, right?
Right.
Invest in psychological growth. Now, we haven't talked about that. We talked
Oh,
about the physical, we talked about the mental, we talked about the spiritual and all that, but psychological growth, how we think, Chaz, a lot of our thoughts, man. And I really wish we could maybe do a broadcast on the psychology of each individual because
okay.
some of us have some weird thoughts. But if
Mm-hmm.
our thoughts are right, Chaz, we're going to do the things that what is called on this screen enrich our lives because you love yourself. I've never seen a person, well, I have seen, but this is just being funny. I just don't believe that people do things to hurt themselves intentionally. I think they do it because psychologically speaking, they've been damaged, whether it's in a spiritual meeting, whether it's in a church, whether it's in a mosque, whether it's in the home, whether it's in a school. All these things have done something to our psychology, and
Yeah.
therefore we can't think enough how to love ourselves. And that's why, again, this kind of broadcast is paramount when you're talking about true self-love, Chaz.
Absolutely. And we do, like you said, that would be a good broadcast eventually to talk about the individual thoughts and how to grow it. But the I think you moved on, but anyway, the on the screen, we have to be aware, like I said, what our thoughts, because the thoughts dictate to what we're going to do and how we're going to react. And after so many years and months, if we're not feeding our minds with the right things and the right videos, it will take a toll on your health. And sometimes it can lead us to do things that
Mhm.
we shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, and it's how you
Um,
see yourself, Chad. It's the psychology, like it says on the screen. Psychological means anything related to the consciousness, anything related to the mind, anything related to our awareness. So we must see ourselves for who we really are to love ourselves. But if we don't see ourselves for who we really are, we cannot love ourselves. And that's a psychological issue that most of us don't want to talk about because we don't know how to get past these things that make us hate ourselves as opposed to
mm,
loving ourselves. And that's why psychology is very important because it gets to the heart of the matter. Why do you think the way you think? Why do you do what you do? Why do you behave the way you behave? Because your mind is telling you to do these things and you may not even know, but you're doing it because you don't realize what true self-love is, because true self-love is not going to allow you to do that to yourself, Chaz.
absolutely. Number 6, self-love involves loving who you really are. Yes, and it's not
Uh-oh.
all of the extra stuff that we do to ourselves, like some of the sisters we put on this makeup and all that.
Uh-oh.
It's
Uh-oh.
it's who you really are. Even when you don't have that crap on, when you
Come
don't
on,
have on
Chaz.
that fancy perfume on,
Teach.
love who you really are. These things shouldn't make you, even though it
Mm,
does feel good to have these things. Love who you really are. Even when you look up in, when you wake up in the mirror and you haven't combed your hair. This is for us
mm,
brothers, or you
mm.
haven't brushed your waves, or whatever you have. Look and love yourself and say, you know what? I still am a decent looking brother.
Yeah,
These things
yeah,
don't
yeah,
make
yeah,
me. And
yeah.
once again, I'm gonna say this. I think self-love should be just loving ourselves for who we are without all the extras, without the
Mm.
cologne, without the house, without the cars and these types of things. That's to me what self-love really is.
Yeah, yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head because love involves self-love involves loving who you really are. And that's the problem, Chaz. A lot of us don't love who we are. Let me tell you something, and you may say, Jahi, I can't believe you saying this, but I'm going to say this now.
Okay.
The reason I know that many of us don't love ourselves is because we got to go somewhere to get this affirmation. See,
Yeah.
we got to
Yeah.
go somewhere and get something. It's true, Chad. It's because if we really loved ourselves, I don't care who or where we go or where we don't go, that should be constant.
Right.
We have to go to places where people can tell us that they love us and make us feel good, or where people
Right.
can make us feel good. And so, therefore, self-love involves loving who you really are. If they never tell you anything good, we should still love ourselves because that's the ultimate in life. And a lot of us as African Americans, we ought to be ashamed of ourselves because we are not teaching our children what self-love is because we don't love ourselves. So we run to these places to try to find it. We run
Right.
to bars. You know, a lot of people looking for love in all the wrong places. Some people, they go out to bars and they really don't want to drink. They just want somebody to love them. I mean, that's all. Some people go to these buildings, these spiritual meetings. They really, they want somebody to love them. That's what they're crying inside. Love me, because they don't love themselves, and they're not honest enough to say, I need to work on knowing how to love ourselves, because we're going to talk about that next week. What does true self-love looks like? But they're really crying out, Chazz. They're not literally doing it, but they're really crying out. Yeah. They want someone to accept them. And I'm saying, I don't care if you accept me or not. Right. I love myself, and I'm going to constantly be the person I am. But see, many of us are not like that. We got to have somebody stroking our ego, somebody telling us we're good, somebody giving us something, somebody singing us a song to make us feel good, or thoughts. See, that's psychology again, Chazz.
Yeah, and I was just going to add to that. Who are you when you don't get these things? Because here's the thing about it all. Okay, yeah, it does feel good to have someone stroke our ego every now and then. But when you don't get these things, and it's been months, it's been years, it's been weeks, when you're not getting this affirmation, when you're not getting these compliments, you have to look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm not living for other people. I'm not living to get accolade. And even if I don't get a compliment for another year, I still need to be satisfied with my own self.
Whatever, Chazz. That's true what you're saying. I'm throwing my hand at you to say, yeah, that sounds good on a video. But a lot of us don't know that. See, the question we must ask ourselves is this. First of all, if this question is not answered, then we've lost already. Here's the question. It's simple.
Okay.
Who are you? Who are you? That's the question that a lot of us don't want to answer, because we don't know who we are. We think we're somebody that we're not. So we want to put on things to make people think we're this way. We want to put on airs so people can think we're that way. We want people to think that we're wealthy when we're not. We want people to think that we're all that when we're not. We are some seriously sick individuals. And so self-love is what we should all be promoting. And if we loved ourselves the way we say we do, like you mentioned, clothes, houses, apartments, cars, cologne, all that stuff, that's not going to mean anything. And this is what they say. Boy, he sure smells good. And if I get 5 compliments where people say, you smell good, when I run out of that cologne, guess what I'm going to do?
You gonna go get it again?
The same cologne, because I want people to love me, love my smell. But if you tell me, man, that cologne trash, everybody say, man, that doesn't smell good. I'm not gonna get this cologne. I'm not gonna get it anymore, because y'all not stroking my ego, even though I like the way it smells. But this is what people always do this. We have some people who have been basically messed up, Chazz.
Yeah, and it's sisters too with that perfume. They wearing it and they want people to like it. But it is what it is. That's how we are as people. But I'll move on to the next one. It says, no, self-love is responsible. When you love yourself, you are a responsible person. I'll let you take this one.
Yes. In other words, self-love means that you are a responsible person for yourself. You are responsible for you, Chazz. I'm not responsible for you. You're not responsible for me. See, when you love yourself, you're going to make sure that you are a responsible person. See, we're getting deep tonight. That other stuff we talked about was shallow. We're getting deep tonight. When you are a person in love with yourself, you're going to take responsibility, like Sister Sharon is doing. Even though that's her grandson, people may say it's the son's mother's responsibility. I say, no, it's her responsibility also, because the same blood that's in that little boy runs through her too. So I'm saying it's a whole deal. So she's responsible. So she feels like, I got to go do something. But again, Chazz, many of us, and I hate to be this Debbie Downer tonight, but I want to be honest about it. We're irresponsible, see? We're procrastinators. We're whiners. We're complainers. We're always sad. Look like what's Senior Droopy? Or we're always, we look like Sleb Rock on the Flintstones back in the day. I'm dating my age, but in Sleb Rock, nobody wanted to be around Sleb Rock. Why? Because every time Sleb Rock came around, he said, wowsy, wowsy, woo. He didn't love himself. He was always miserable. He was always sad. And that's the problem with many of us. And we don't want to teach our children because we don't know what it is. So you can run to these buildings all you want to.
Uh-oh.
I can run to these buildings all I want to. I can read the Nature, I can read the hieroglyphs. I can tell you what these letters mean and all these secret meanings. But in my heart, Chazz, if I don't love myself enough to be responsible, then Chazz, I have duped my own stupid self.
Yeah. Yeah. And self-love, being responsible, like you said, not procrastinating, not putting things off, looking, and even though things do happen every now and then, but looking at yourself and say, you know what? I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to do that instead of always kicking the can down the road, because we know how that goes. You constantly are procrastinating and never gets done. But even, like I said, it's just being responsible as an adult. And this is a key one. Stop shifting the blame on others. Be responsible.
Oh,
Say, you know what? This was my fault. Yes, I did this. Yes, I did that. Everything is always the other person. The other person's the devil. The other person is doing this and doing that. So it's like we got to sometimes say, it was me, not always the other person.
Yeah. Now, Chazz, I need you to read this again, because those who might have just tuned in, we're talking about true self-love. Next week, we're going to be talking about how love demonstrates itself. In other words, don't tell me that you love yourself. Show me that you love yourself. And when we show each other that we love ourselves, we're going to be doing things, and they're not always internal. It's not always about us. See, self-love is not hoarding love into ourselves, because our grandparents loved us, but they showed us in ways that we think back on to say, I know they love me because of the things they did for me. See, they helped me. They did all kinds of things for me. They gave me knowledge. They gave me insight. So please read this slowly, because this is what we're talking about tonight. When we say self-love, this is what we mean.
Self-love, appreciating yourself by recognizing your value, treating yourself with kindness, and prioritizing your well-being, then demonstrating your love to your surroundings. Absolutely. Recognizing our value and treating ourselves, meaning, and I said this earlier in the broadcast, and I'll say it again, our value isn't wrapped up on the job that we have, the neighborhood we live in, some of the material possessions that we have. Our value as human beings are, to me, the way I look at it is being a person that does their job, they do their 9 to 5 or whatever, and they come home. They're not being a peasant to society. They're not in and out of jail. They're doing things in the community sometimes here and there, but that's our value. Treating our mental health correctly, watching some of the things that we're watching, making a mental note, making sure that we're not going too far off in the deep end. And then last but not least, prioritizing, I would say, our surroundings, the people around us, treating them with respect, with love, kindness, fairness, because we can get so wrapped up in ourselves to where we start treating others like crap and not even know it, the people that surround us. So
Yeah, that's true.
That's all I have for that one.
Well, I want to add to that too, because here's something we didn't bring out. And I think we need to bring it out right now at this time. And here it is, Chazz. It goes like this. Many of us cannot love ourselves because we have too many problems. Now, we shouldn't, but we have so many problems. We're worried about this. We're anxious about that. We're just all up in the air. So the love that we should be showing ourselves, we're too busy with these problems, man. These problems are all around us. They're everywhere. So we're so busy putting out this issue, putting out that issue, that we don't have time to settle down and say, hey, I need to show my own self some love. And so we're worried about this, things that we can't do anything about. We're concerned about that, things that we can't do anything about. So true self-love is something that one has to look within and begin, as Sister Sharon said earlier, we have to do something about it. We can't just look within and say, I'm looking within. That's why I always ask people, they always say, you have to work on yourself. It's true. But I always go one step further and say, how are you working on yourself? And they don't have an answer. So you know they're just lying through their teeth. Because when you ask me, Jahi, you talking about loving yourself or looking within, what are you doing about that? Now, I should be able to tell you a lot of things. I got to stop lying. I got to stop being a procrastinator. I got to start doing, so I can go on with mine. But see, we don't want to do practical things like that. We want to make people think, child, all it is looking within. But then what are you going to do when you find that stuff in there?
Yeah, and I want to ask you too. I'm seeing that because I listen to a lot of YouTube content, and there's these people out here always talking about they doing this shadow work. And you know, I want to ask them. They don't never respond, but I sometimes want to ask them. You know, what is shadow work? But I was being funny. But I think I think they call it shadow work. It's like you said, quietly, supposedly working on yourself. You should be, stop doing this, stop doing that. But they throw this word around a lot, and I know it's just a buzzword.
It's a cop out. It's a cop out because you can't trace. You can't grab that shadow. See, we're asking, what are we doing tangible that we can see? See, shadow work is always something in our mind that we're trying to do. So you can't gauge me if I say I'm doing shadow work. But if I start telling you, you say, Jahi, have you quit lying so much? See, now you confronting me. Now you dealing with me. See, so this is what, and
crazy,
man. You go to these places, some of these churches and other places in spirituality and Islam, they say, if you find anything in me, God, well, we already know there's something in you. You're full of, I can't say the word, but it's doo-doo. You know the word for it. That's what we're full of. And we don't want to acknowledge that because many of us don't know how to stop and work on ourselves so that we can show ourselves true love.
Sister Barbara Fires in here. She says, as the students of Liberation Academy sing their song, when you know yourself, you love yourself. So she's bumping the song that they play.
And it goes on to say, you respect yourself and you're going to be yourself. See, they go on with all of that. They don't stop at that, but she's right. When you love yourself, you know yourself. You respect yourself. You're going to be yourself. See, this is what these kids are learning at a young age that we didn't learn. So now we want everybody to like us. We want the whole world to like us. And if they don't like us, then we think
they hate.
Hate.
And I hear that a lot. Sharon says denial.
Yeah, people in denial. They don't want to accept it. That's what she's saying.
Yeah. But
Chaz, this has been a good broadcast. Now, next week when we come back, Chaz, let's talk about this part here.
Ways that true self-love is demonstrated.
We're going to pick it up there next week. We're going to talk about when a person loves themselves, they're going to demonstrate. It's going to be shown. I don't have to tell you that I love you.
Right.
You will be able to see it based upon some of the things that I'm doing. See, this is why I'm telling you, all these people talking about love, but yet you never see it demonstrated. Love is not just, and I want to say this again next week. Love is not just taking everything internal and holding on to it. Never give out any love. It's just holding on to it. I love myself. That's selfishness.
Right.
That's selfishness. And that's what we have to talk about, Chaz. So, it's always a pleasure talking about these things, man.
Yeah.
But we gotta be honest, man. We really do. We have to
like I said, next week I'll be looking forward to it too as well. How we'll get into some in-depth details on the demonstration. I hear you playing that music, so I guess that's our cue for the show today. But I appreciate everybody, Sister Barbara, Sister Marie, all you guys who logged on. We appreciate you. But tonight's broadcast was fun, but it was serious. Basically about self-love. Why are we putting so much value into things that mean nothing? And when we don't get certain compliments and certain things that go our way, we shut down and act a fool. We shouldn't be so wrapped up into material things that when we don't get them, it makes us just fly off the handle. We also talked about the seriousness of when we don't get these things, that sometimes it pushes people to suicide and to harm themselves and to hurt themselves and to destroy themselves when they don't get these things, which is not a good look. And self-love is teaching your own self, telling your own self in the mirror, I am a decent person. I am trying to do the best I can. I may not be rich, but I'm providing for me and my family if you have one, or you live with one. And you're just doing the bare basics just to get by. And to me, that's your value, not wrapped up in none of these physical or material things. But I really, really appreciate you having me on, brother, and I'll go ahead and I'll pass it to you on this one.
Well, Sister Sharon says, thank you, family. She appreciates the kind words, the love that we show her, and we say back to her, we love you, and we thank her for tuning in, taking time out of her busy schedule. Sister Mashonda says, Shem Hotep, bros, good broadcast. And she's basically saying, for those who don't know, they keep hearing us say Shem Hotep. That's a spiritual ideal that basically means we want you to have the fullest kind of peace that there is. So when we get off this broadcast, we want that peace to flow, not just on the broadcast. And then Sister Barbara says the same thing, Shem Hotep. This is some ancient words that our ancient ancestors used to basically say, we want you to have a peace. Now, going back to what Chaz said, tonight's broadcast, as you can see on the scroll, the crawl, I should say, it says true self-love and its demonstration. We as a people, Chazz, and those who are watching this, we have some very serious psychological, emotional, physical, mental issues because we don't know how to love ourselves. Next week, you should call somebody and say, these two brothers are going to give us some practical ways that we can show how we love ourselves. We can show that we demonstrate it. In other words, we love ourselves. This is what love looks like. You don't want to miss this broadcast. And don't leave the broadcast, because tonight, when we go off the air, actually, while we're going off the air, I need you to hear something that Chazz and I put together. And it's something about the 4th of July. And Chazz is narrating it. So I please want you to listen in to us, because this information that he's talking about is just vital. So again, we thank you for tuning in to this broadcast. And we hope to see you all next week. So as I said again, I'm going to stop the music. Don't get off the broadcast. But me and Chazz are going to get out of here, and you're going to listen to Chazz as he talks about a speech that Brother Frederick Douglass gave in the 1800s that's still relevant. So Chazz, I'm going to get us off this screen, and I want people to hear this because it's something that we need to hear. So we'll see you next week, Chazz. Everybody else, hang in there, and here it comes.
Take care, everybody.
What to the American slave is your 4th of July? Spoken in Rochester, New York in 1852 by Frederick Douglass. The narrator, Chazz, of Cries from the Womb.
This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice, I must mourn. Do you mean citizens to mock me by asking me to speak today? What to the American slave is your 4th of July? A day that reveals to him, more than all other days in the year, the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham. Your boasted liberty, an unholy license. Your national greatness, swelling vanity. Your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your denunciations of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence. Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns. Your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy. A thin vow to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. There is not a nation on the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloodier than are the people of the United States at this very hour. Go where you may, search where you will, roam through all the monarchies and suppression of the old world. Travel through South America, search out every abuse, and when you have found the last, lay your facts by the side of the everyday practices of this nation, and you will say, with me, that for revolting barbarity and shameless hypocrisy, America reigns without a rival.